Okay, so right, let's go again while we're waiting. Let's look at some title player games. Viglik 2302 in 3 minutes. Oh, we've got a game, CCK. What about D4 for a change? Okay, going to D4 rather than against French. Queen's Indian. Change of scenery from normal E4 stuff. Okay, I don't have to do bishop D2. Or knight D2. I think I will play bishop D2. Okay. Catalan stuff. Queen's Indian. Catalan knowledge probably helps here. Once he exchanges off dark square bishops, try and get onto the dark squares. I think maybe Queen D2 to allow Knight C3. Otherwise the Knight's not so good, is it, on D2? Possibly. Okay, what's this guy's record recently? It's quite high for the 15 minute. Oh, he hasn't played that many recently. Lost one there, won one there. Okay. Deep thought in this sort of bog standard kind of opening position. He's playing for E5 or something. Or I just take here. I'm saying I want knight C3, not knight D2 particularly. So knight C3. That would support. Let's play D5 and E4. Maybe even C5 pretty quick. There's knight E1 to D3 and then C5 as a plan. Bit of extra space. There's also the option of rook A1, F4, blast open the centre. Okay, I haven't got the dark square bishop, but I like the knight on D3. It's dual, you know, for C5 and F4 breaks. Okay. Knight retreats here to D8. So E4. Then we'll start this manoeuvre. Rook A1. Possibly F4 or C5. Which way to go? C5 or F4 as the breaks? That's the question. He's going to get C5 in pretty soon to counter. Mind you, I'll have B4, so he has to waste time with A5. So I'm going to play knight E1, protecting E4. So say knight D7. Okay, or here knight C5. There's B4. In fact, he's ruled out E5. Wasn't that a bit silly? Because I want to play knight D3 now. And then actually that makes B4 more tempting with a knight there. Potentially. B4, C5, that knight looking a bit silly. Okay, so knight D3. Is B4 that great? Rook FC1 or rook AC1, C5, maybe a pawn sack. What about rook AC1, knight B5, C6 maybe? c6. So knight, okay, let's work this out. What about just b6 if he wants to play knight c5? b6, knight d3, knight c5. If we've got no b4, that would work out, potentially. If he doubles the pawns, isolate the pawn here. No, it's difficult to form a plan here without seeing what his next move is, I think. It's quite delicate. So knight d3. Definitely immediate knight c5 is b4. So I think b6. So there's no b4 at the moment. What about a3? Ah, okay, so knight d3 now. That looks good. Now if he plays f5, maybe the plan, a good plan, just taking rook a1, change of plan, extends the scope of the bishop, tactical pressure on e file, then f4. He could play bishop d3 and knight c5, I guess, but this diagonal, bishop e4 later. I think f4, e5 is going to be under fire. That looks plain enough. This knight's looking bad at the moment. I like the position here. Okay, so knight c5 and a5, I assume, is the idea now. Get a juicy knight to c5, good. But what about f4? Try and throw a spanner in the works here with f4. Or maybe even b3, a3, b4, kick the knight, then later knight e4 to g5, at some point h4, knight g5. If I kick that knight, it'll be quite key, so maybe b3. Or is it too slow? a3, then b4, takes knight a6, say, queen b3. It's a bit slow. Quicker plan f4. While the knight's still there, maybe takes and actually queen f2 hits c5 or even just knight. I think that does look vulnerable. I think I'm going to go for that. The e pawn looks vulnerable. Maybe even just exchange of rooks. Would you queen e5 is a big queen, so takes, rook takes, bishop takes, maybe d takes, queen f2 hits c5, but it's protected by the queen. Queen f2 first, there's knight d3. f5 sort of gives the knights kind of nice places, so I don't know anymore actually. Controversial. f4 maybe. I don't really want to play fe and liberate the queen. I don't want to move the queen off there. Ideally knight e4 to g5. It'll be knight f6, okay. Okay, now here, tactically there's anything going on? Doesn't seem like it. So what about just b3? Try and reserve this other plan of a3. If e4, I can just take that for the moment. So I don't want to stretch the side with the queen just yet. So I'm going to go with this, a3 and b4. Take knight a6, queen b3 maybe, queen b1. I think that ticks the boxes. Queen b1, protect b4, then later try to chase this one now to get knight e4 to g5. Is that a dream worth chasing, or is there another just easier plan here? There's knight b5, difficult to play c6, there's bishop here. Does knight b5 actually offer anything? Take, d6, cd, nothing. Knight b5, knight d4 it offers, which does nothing. And that's knight e6. Actually knight b5, okay, I'm asking for e4 pretty soon. Tricky. Does e4 matter? I don't want to play this. Oh, there's knight d3 coming up as a benefit, so maybe just rook e2 or rook e3. Rook e3, there's knight g4, so rook e2, e4, Rook E1, if knight D3 queen takes. Okay, that might be good against E4. Just rook E2. I don't think there's too many downsides of rook E2. So I just want to make sure E4 can be answered with rook E1. Knight D3 just take. So this plan A3 B4 in reserve. There's also bishop H3 to E6. If this knight ever moves in this knight, then there's knight E4 to G5 on H7. This taking is liberating the queen, and also I don't want a rook exchange. It will just weaken my king. Now you could be going for a rook exchange. Wonder about F5. Is that really controversial? Probably. It blocks in my own bishop. Tricky position. It still looks good for me, I think. Just not yet that clear. Knight G4. Taking here on E5. Probably threatening to take and get a lot of pressure. Okay. Let's keep a pawn on E5. I think I don't want a rook exchange particularly, so I think I'll take here. I think his pieces are getting a bit liberated, but I don't know what else to do. Because A3, I don't like the look of E takes and exchanging a pair of rooks like that, particularly. F5, we look at this F5 again. I don't know actually. E4, maybe H3, oh, there's knight H5. No, I think F takes E, probably just about might be justified. Mind you, A3 takes, gets the E file with rook E8. So I think FE. Now that the queen's on the light square, there's more time to get to the dark squares. So maybe that isn't such a major problem, this queen on the dark squares here. Knight G4 is always bishop H3. Maybe I'll just attack E5 for a moment. So knight G4, bishop H3. I think knight B5 to D4 when the queen's not. Well, these two are protecting E8. Nope, rule that out. At least I keep the tension in position without the rook exchange. Now A3 and B4. Take knight A6, queen B3. Looking at C5, try and clamp down on the dark squares. Getting a pass ball in the centre maybe. I think that has to be the plan. So A3 and B4. If knight G4, bishop H3. If E4, that's trickier because knight D3 might actually be a possibility. It's going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. I can just take. Just take on E4. There's no E4. Good news. So I want to undermine black's control of E4. I've weakened my dark squares, which he's celebrating at the moment. But I'm hoping there isn't a bigger celebration of the dark squares coming up. Neither of us have got dark square bishops anyway. So I just want to get more pressure going on the centre, undermine black's central control. A3, B4, take. Pawns are a bit vulnerable. Knight A6, queen B3. Potential for C5 to make that knight look worse on A6. Queen can't come in just yet with this knight there. Then maybe D6 in the future. Okay. D6 in the future could be dangerous. Okay, so there's tactics coming in. Pawn sack. Maybe bishop h3 to rule out knight g4s. Also, if the knight moves, then there'll be bishop e6. I think bishop h3 just prophylaxis to avoid too many problems with knight g4. I don't want to take on e5. I trust that's been worked out. So I think that's queen h5 and knight g4. Okay. Queen f5 here. Does that clamp down the play? It might be g6. H3 is knight h5. d6 for bishop d5. Could be getting in big trouble now. Queen h5, there might be h3 though. So I could go with this plan. a3, queen h5, crude knight g4, b4 take, knight g4, h3. Don't think it's a major disaster there just yet. Then maybe g4. I'll go for that. Ask for this hack attack. There's knight g4. I'm going to get assaulted on the king side, aren't I? Oh dear, this is going to be scary. But I've got good central control. There shouldn't be so much of an excuse for a successful attack here, surely. I get this knight away from the action, but then my queen on b3 justifies an attack. And this queen b1 keeps control of f5. That could be handy, as well as across the diagonal. Queen h5 is a bit artificial in its own right if it's just knight g4, because that does gain the tempo at h3. The knight moves back, g4 succeeded weakening dark squares. But if I have my queen here supporting the knight pawn there rather than on b3, I've still got access to stuff. Okay, I think I'm going to have to go for it. I'm decentralizing, hopefully, black's position after queen b1. Okay, or c5 or h3. What about just h3 to stop knight g4 prophylaxis? And I'm weakening a few dark squares. I think it might be worth it. h3. Okay, go for it. It's weakened my king side a bit, but his knight's not stranded. He's not tying down my queen on the bright side. The queen stretches across still that diagonal rather nicely. Okay, king h2 here. There's no knight g4 check or anything. King h2 might be the optimal way, because g4 h5, knight g4 checks don't work, I think. Okay, so king h2. Now knight b5, this c7 might be vulnerable. Actually, what does he do about c7 after knight b5? c6, knight d6, rook moves, knight e4. Oh no, I don't know. He's getting in severe time pressure though, so I don't know. Oh, there's knight h5, knight e4. There's no queen sack, hopefully, so knight e4 is a good response. What about crashing through the centre here? c5. I can panic for the centre control. Pass pawn in the centre with d6. That would open up queen b3 as a possibility. Put more strain on e5, and this knight protecting e5. Okay. So d6, we have a passed pawn. Cheapos with knight f2 coming in. I think d6 passed pawn time. Also opening up the bishop. A few other perks. He's going to hijack the c file now. Rook c8. Okay, there's knight g4 on the cards. Still, I just played king g1. So how about, I don't know. Knight d5. My queen's holding up f2 at the moment. So knight d5 for knight e7. Knight d5, Knight g4, king g1. I can't see the hack attack just yet. I might have Knight e7 as a resource. So Knight d5, take, pinning the rook. Okay, Knight d5 I think. It's getting a bit scary, I want to say, with the two rooks, the knight and the queen coming in. So rook f2, there's hg. So is the knight moving back? No, knight h3 is now threatened. Whoa. I get two rooks. Hopefully takes. Oh, this is not what I wanted, to lose h3 like that. I think knight e7 check, king h8 doesn't really help. Why have I managed to lose h3 or perpetual? Get two rooks to the queen, I've got that centre pawn. So maybe knight e7. This would be a bit gutting to have counterplay it. There is counterplay though. Knight f4, does that reduce counterplay? Protects h3, attacks the queen. Takes, fg. Don't think that helps. Knight e7, king moves. Maybe knight e7, rook f2, take both rooks, hope for the best. Or check and bishop d5, queen h3, rook f2. If knight h3, king g2. I'm afraid knight e7 check, I think. Queen c7 or something. Any technical moves now to save the day? Queen c7. I'm on d7 there. h4, g4. Can't really defend that h3. He's got his hack attack. Rook takes f2. Looks a bit silly and desperate and unfortunate. But I don't know. Rook f2. What about queen e4? Just exchange sack time. Keeps things solid. Knight f6. Queen e5. Rook f1. There's bishop f1. I think I'll do that just to get rid of the attack. So queen e4 here. Just try and keep solid. So g4, knight f5. If knight f6, queen e5, I think g4 just to evict this queen. Then queen b7, two passed pawns for the exchange. It's down to a minute. It's getting a bit dramatic, but I don't feel so scared about my king safety after the exchange sack. I just want to emphasise the two assets here. So g4 now for knight f5, that would be disruptive. Queen d2, still knight f5. I was rook g2. Okay, I think I need to do this because otherwise he's got tactics on e1 now. So knight f5, rook g2, king g2, not queen g2. So knight f5, okay, knight f5. That looks good, because my king's carnivorous, surely. If the queen moves, king takes f2. I think he's under too much time pressure now. I can attack the queen now. Okay. I've got my passed pawn still. He didn't want to take there. So h4, rook f5, bishop h3. We'll just rook c4 here. I'm on b7. Still got a big time advantage. We check first to get the king on the diagonal. Bishop e4 will be good. Rook c7. We get that b7. Oh. Right. This asset. Okay. Try and get behind that pawn. What about rook e6? Bishop c4 to keep the king. For rook f7, keep the king away. Try and get this passed pawn going. B pawn. About bishop a6. King can handle. Oh no! Right, there's no panic. Ah, there is a panic. No, there isn't. Rook e7. Pin. Pin and win. Rook e7. There's no knight b6. Rook e7. 26 seconds. Okay, I can't believe that exchange sack. Isn't stronger at f6 instead of the routine take. So basically, actually f7 will be queening after takes. So f6 here. Rook takes. We can just move that. There's rook g7. King h8. So why can't I just win the exchange because of f6? Isn't f6 just really strong? So I'm going to pawn, keep the king trapped in. Okay. Plan 2, just get the king up without losing it to a fork, ideally. Keep the king restricted. Oh, he's on that pawn. Ah. I can win the h pawn in exchange, and there's no knight g4. I'll do that. Is the rook getting out? King g7. There's rook h4. Okay. Looking a bit precarious for this rook. There's a check. King here for a moment. Okay. King the rook. Oh. Right, what about for rook f5, rook h5? Oh dear, oh dear. Did I make a mess? No, I'm winning the knight here. Well, he's got 2 seconds, but also I think this is winning because is it? Oh dear, oh dear. No! Did I really mess this up? Ah! Oh. He's got 1 second. What do I do? Oh, he didn't take the rook. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Sorry, he could have just taken the rook. What a mess. Oh. But you know, he put himself in that time pressure. Oh, dear, oh dear. How to mess up the exchange up? Oh dear, oh dear. Well, this is ridiculous. Ah, dear, oh dear. That wasn't. losing that pawn is on my H pawn. Okay, comments or questions on YouTube? Exciting game there. Thanks very much.